All right, class, so today we're going to be working in Illustrator. What we're going to start with is opening up a new file. So you're going to go to File, New, and like I had mentioned previously, it's set up a little bit differently than Photoshop. So what I want you to focus on is your width and your height. We'll work in inches. You can change your orientation to your preference. So if you want it landscape or portrait, you can change it to the right here. And you can just hit OK because there's nothing vector-based program now, not a bitmap-based program like Illustrator. What we're going to start focusing on first is really understanding how layers work in the program and understanding a few of the tools that you can work with. The first tool that I would like you to look closely at is the shape tool along with the paintbrush and the pencil tools. I'd like to show you how they work. And then I would like to see you practice. So the shape tool works very similar to the shape tool in Photoshop, but it does have some differences. You can click on the little arrow and you can pull it up on the side if you'd like to. So I'm just going to start with like a simple square. Okay, so if I were going to draw a square, okay, you can see that that square is in my layer 1 on my layer bar, and it's just white with an outline around it. So just like if you wanted to outline something in Photoshop, you can go up above and you can see that you can fill the color. Sorry, you can fill the color over here. Okay, you can create an outline here. You can change the stroke of the lines, the outline here. So if I wanted to make it a little bit thicker, okay, I'm going to change the color of it too. I'll change the color of the outline. And then it just gives you more options for the type of line that you're creating. So you can see that it's more of like a painterly line. You can also, gives you more variation as far as like a frame that you'd want around it. Say I wanted to make it look more like a paintbrush. I can change the opacity up here, just like you could in Photoshop. You can add pattern to it. Alright, so this is just showing you the size of the shape. Alright, and that they're locked together, so they're in proportion. So no matter how big the top or the side are, they're going to be locked together. So that would be how to use your shape tool. Now, if you notice on your layers, if you click on layer 1, it almost works like a folder would in Photoshop. So if you click on the little tab, it'll show you that you have one rectangle in layer 1. Now I could create another shape. Say I create another shape. Change the color. Okay. The outline. It doesn't always have to have an outline, but mine do. Okay. You can see that those two rectangles are in layer 1. But they're in layer 1 and I can move them separately. So one great thing about Illustrator is you don't have to be on the layer in order to do whatever it is that you want to do. You can just select each object and move it separately like this. Let's say you wanted them to be connected and you wanted them to keep in this form and shape, but you wanted to move it together. You can literally hold your mouse down or your drawing tablet pen and select them both, and it will highlight both together and move them together. I can make them larger and smaller together too. Okay. And I'll show you in a second how layers, then you're probably looking at layers like why are the layers important? And I'll show you why they might be important to you as you're working. I'm going to name this layer Shapes. Another thing too is you can create a bunch of different shapes. And if you, let's say you don't like one, you don't have to trash it. You can just hit delete and it will go away. Alright, so the second thing I want to show you is the paintbrush tools. Alright, so I figured I'd show you this because we're digitally painting in Photoshop, so you can see the differences between digitally painting in Photoshop and digitally painting in a program like Illustrator. So for this I'm going to create a new layer, and in this layer I'm going to name this paintbrushes. Alright, so now this is how layers will become helpful for you. It's more for organizing tool. So if you wanted to keep certain things together, you would group them together in your layers. Let's say I wanted to focus on just my paintbrushes. I can hide my shapes together and just focus on my paintbrushes now. Now if I want to group them in paintbrushes, I have to make sure I'm on that layer. So I have my paintbrush and I have my pencil tool that I'm going to show you. And my blob brush is actually separate from, together with the paintbrush, but your blob brush tool is probably going to be, I think on your program it's separate. So paintbrush is actually pretty cool. You can paint. And basically it's going to paint whatever's happening up top. So if my outline is red, the paint is gonna be red. So if I wanted to change it, I can select that and I can change the color accordingly. I can change the type of paintbrush that I have. Use the basic paintbrush. I could have it type like a calligraphy type pencil if I wanted to, or a pen I should say. Right. And the cool thing is that I can make it bigger, I can make it smaller, and I'm going to show you later on how I can change the shape of it. Alright, so now that it's kind of on a calligraphy type pen brush, now I can go and even, I don't want that, hold on, a sec. Well, you can write your name and, like you would calligraphy. Now, let's see. Oh, it keeps coming up like that. Alright. Doesn't want to work for me. But you get the point that you can change the type of brush you're using and change the size of it. Okay. So there's my name written. Okay. Now if I don't like it, I can go and select it and delete it. Okay, so that's how the brush works. You also have your blob paintbrush, which I've used in illustrations before if I'm drawing something and I want to almost color it in. It works great for, graphic illustrations that you're creating. But again, it's going to be graphic. Nothing about this is going to be realistic in a way, right? So now that becomes one shape. So if it's just working on it. Okay, so if I went in to move this shape around, you can see that it's one shape that I can move, right? I can rotate it, I can size it, and so forth. All right, so that would be the blob tool. And then the pencil, works very similarly. Okay, and you can change the size of it, you can change the shape of it, works the same way. And that's that. Okay. So with that being said, that's kind of how those tools work. So again, that kind of looks cool. The the layers work for more organizational purposes. So if, again, you wanted to keep things together and other things separate, you would create new layers to do this. And you can also move things around within each layer. So if I wanted to move this, I can, oops, I can shift it and move it without letting it interfere with those, right? Or I can move them separately, right? Or delete them if I needed to. Okay. So that's how the shape and the pen blob paintbrushes work. So I would like to see you practice using these tools. If you look on to my second video, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the type tool and the pen tool. All right.